Good day, dear students. Today is our second lection, which is devoted to the theme ontology. Let's begin from the definition of the concept of ontology. The word ontology originates from Greek word on, in genitive ontos, means the existing, and from the word logos. Among their meanings, there is doctrine. So, ontology is firstly the doctrine of the existing or of being as such, and secondly, it is a section of philosophy devoted to the study of the most general essences, ultimate foundations, and the fundamental principles of being, as well as categories, that is, the most general concepts that are said about the existing. We have in ontology two main words, the existing and being. The existing from the Greek ta onta, or in Latin ens, esse, this is either everything that exists or the mode of existence, or being of the connective is, since any existing, regardless of the way of being, can be attributed to the connective is. The second word is being, from the Greek einai, ousia, or Latin esse. This is presence in a state other than non-being, while an object that is in being can be thought of as eternally unchanging and can be understood as being in a state of constant change, of becoming and movement. Let's consider the main questions of ontology. The first and the most important question is what is the arche or primordial or the first beginning or the first principle of the existing. One more question, very important in ontology, is why is there something and not nothing? The third question is how many the first beginnings or first principles are there. The fourth question, what is the quality of the first beginning or the first principle? And the fifth question, what is spirit? What is consciousness? The main question of metaphysics. The most important question, which was formulated by the German philosopher Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz and was called by the German philosopher Martin Heidegger the main question of metaphysics. This is the question, why is there something and not nothing? Or it can be called the problem of the cause of being of all the existing. How many the first beginnings or the first principles are there? If we answer to this question one beginning or one the first principle, this is so-called monism, from Greek word mono, one. If we call for this question two principles, to the two first principles, this is dualism. And if we answer many, this is pluralism. Types of monism by criterion of the quality of the first principles. Inside the trend of monism, we can distinguish two different branches, idealism and materialism. Idealism supposes that this first principle is either the God or the supreme intelligence or the absolute or the spirit. And if this is materialism, as this first principle we consider matter. Inside idealism we can distinguish two different branches: objective idealism and subjective idealism. Idealism originates from the Greek word idea. This is a philosophical position according to which a certain spiritual principle, for example, spirit, consciousness, divine mind, the absolute, etc., is the primary source that creates the world, our world, including matter and all the existing in this world. What types of idealism exist? This is objective idealism and subjective idealism. According to objective idealism, there is a single and universal spiritual principle which does not depend on individual consciousness that are a part of it, that is a part of it. Subjective idealism. According to subjective idealism, the only reality directly given to us, in the existence of which we can be sure, is our own I, an individual consciousness, our individual consciousness. Therefore, it is possible that the world around us is just a product of the activity of our individual consciousness. Let's consider one of objective idealistic doctrines, doctrine of Plato. This is an example of objective idealistic philosophical system. Plato is ancient Greek philosopher. According to them, the one or the good is the idea that is the highest among all ideas. The one is rather the beginning of ideas than an idea itself. The first emanation that comes from the one is nous. This is the cosmic divine mind, cosmic divine consciousness that give birth to the world soul. Ideas dwelling in nous are the true being, that is, intelligible prototypes of things, of the sensible world. In the Dialogue Republic, Plato compares the good with the sun, since things are cognized only thanks to the good, from which they are also receive being and essence. The good itself is beyond the essence and surpasses it in dignity and strength. The extreme form of subjective idealism is solipsism. This word, solipsism, originates from the Latin word solus, the only one, and ipse, itself. According to solipsism, everything that is considered to exist independently of individual subjective experience, including one's own body, the world around us, and other people, indeed, most likely, is only a part of this subjective experience. An example of subjective idealistic doctrine is the conception of the English philosopher David Hume. Materialism. This is the position according to which matter is the fundamental principle from which the world, including consciousness, arose. Among the materialistic doctrines is, for example, the dialectic materialism of the German philosophers Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. Let's consider the so-called main question of philosophy. The main question of philosophy based on the problem of the quality of the first principle, the first beginning of the world. This problem can be formulated in the form of the question, what is primary, spirit or matter? Or, in relation to a human being, what is primary, consciousness or body, especially brain? The problem of the nature of spirit, consciousness, thinking. This problem can be formulated in the form of the question, what is spirit, consciousness, thinking? Another question connected with this problem is what is the relationship between spirit and matter, mind and body? And in the words of René Descartes, relationship between res cogitans, mental realm, literally from Latin meaning thinking thing, and res extensa, realm of physical matter, literally in Latin meaning extended thing. This is the problem of the relationship between spirit and matter, or in a narrower sense, as applied to human being, the problem of psychophysical parallelism. Let's consider the concept of substance. One of the key concepts in ontology is the concept of substance. The word substance, translated from Latin, means the underlying or lying in the fundament. That is, a substance is that which underlies everything. The substance exists independently, by itself. Substance is something stable and constant, in contrast to accidents, or properties of substance which are changeable and transient, and exist in the other, that is, in the substance, and through the other, that is, through the substance. In the idealistic concept, substance is understood as some kind of spiritual principle. In the materialistic concept, substance is understood as material principle, matter. Let's consider attributes and modes of substance. Another important question in ontology is the question, what are attributes of a substance? Attributes are the inalienable properties of the substance. Modes are transient, temporary properties of the substance. The main attributes of spiritual substance or spirit include consciousness, goal setting, freedom, and creativity. The main attributes of material substance or matter are movement, space, and time. There are other issues of ontology in addition to these fundamental questions, because ontology studies many other problems, such as the relationship between the whole and the part, the one and the many, the discrete and the continuous, the finite and the infinite, the possible and the actual, the real and the virtual, and so on. Let's take a look at some of them. Immanuel Kant distinguished four antinomies of pure reason. Antinomy is a contradiction in pure reason that arises due to the fact that the laws by which pure reason is arranged lead it to equiprobable but mutually exclusive statements. Here we have four antinomies: thesis and antithesis, statement and contrary statement. Antinomy 1, thesis. The world has a beginning in time and is also limited in space. This is position which called finitism. Antithesis. The world has no beginning in time and boundaries in space. It is infinite in both time and space. This is infinitism. The second antinomy, thesis. Every complex substance in the world consists of simple parts, and in general there is only the simple, or that which is made up of the simple. Antithesis. No one complex thing in the world consists of simple parts, and in general there is nothing simple in the world. The first position is merism. The second position or antithesis is so-called holism. Antinomy 3. Thesis. According to the laws of nature, causality is not the only causality from which all phenomena in the world can be derived. To explain the phenomena, it is also necessary to accept free causality. Antithesis. There is no freedom. Everything is done in the world only according to the laws of nature. The first position is indeterminism, in which we have a place for free will, for freedom of human choice. And the second position is determinism. There we have only causal physical causality, and only physical laws of nature determine this causality. Antinomy 4. Thesis. The absolutely necessary essence belongs to the world either as a part of it or as its cause. Antithesis. Now is there any absolutely necessary essence, neither in the world nor outside the world as its cause? The first position, theism, in which we think that the God exists. And the second position is atheism, according to which there is no any supreme power or supreme intelligence. Let's consider variants of answers to the first antinomy of Immanuel Kant. We can answer as finitists or as infinitists concerning space or time. This is so-called spatial and temporal finitism or spatial and temporal infinitism. Spatial finitism or infinitism. Spatial finitism considers that the world is finite in its extension. On the contrary, spatial infinitism considers that the world is infinite in its extension. Temporal infinitism and finitism. Concerning the nature of time. According to temporal finitism, time is finite in the past, that is, it has a beginning, but does not have an end. Or time is finite both in the past and in the future. According to temporal infinitism, time is eternal, and our world is eternal and has no beginning or end. The problem of the relation of the whole and part is the next problem of ontology. We have here two positions, as we saw in the four antinomies of Immanuel Kant, holism and merism. Holism, this word originates The word holism originates from Greek word holos, whole. Holism is, in a broad sense, the position according to which the whole precedes the parts, and is something bigger and qualitatively different in relation to the parts. The word merism originates from the Greek word meros, which means part, fraction. Merism, this is the opposite of holism position, according to which the part precedes the whole. That is, the whole is secondary to the parts, made up of them, and being their sum depends on them in its quality. Problem of causality. We have here two positions, determinism and indeterminism. Determinism is the doctrine of the universal interconnection and interdependence of phenomena and processes of reality. Determinism assumes the existence of the principle of causality and universal physical laws in the world. On the contrary, indeterminism is a philosophical position according to which there is no objective, that is, a causal relationship independent of individual consciousness. Let's consider the next ontological problem, the problem of the relationship between the possible and the actual. Actuality is present being, in which certain possibilities are already realized. On the contrary, possibility is the immanent ability in objects to be in a different state or in different location than it is at the moment, under the influence of internal or external influences. Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz distinguished two kinds of possibility: absolute possibility and hypothetical possibility. An absolute possibility is each of an infinite set of different, unrealized, in reality, possible worlds or universes that God created in his mind, and from which he is free to choose any world for realization. Our world has become real because it is the best of all possible worlds, and this is known to God since he is creator of time. Hypothetical possibilities, any alternative to the path of the development of each of the systems or objects within our realized real world universe, which is the best of all possible worlds. The next problem of ontology is the problem of the nature of space and time. This problem can be transformed into a question: what, by its nature, is space, and what is, by its nature, time? The problem of the nature of space and time is related to many other issues, including the follows. Is space and time finite? Is there an actual infinity of space? Which is primary, the discrete or the continuous? What is the primary, order or chaos? Is there movement and multiplicity? how energy and information relate to each other. Here you can see the scheme of all conceptions of the nature of space and time. All conceptions can be divided in two branches: objectivistic conceptions and subjectivistic conceptions. In turn, objectivistic conceptions can be divided into substantial conceptions and relational conceptions. Let's consider them in detail. Objectivistic and subjectivistic conceptions of the nature of space and time. Objectivistic conceptions stated that space and time exist independently of the consciousness of a subject or an observer. On the contrary, subjectivistic conceptions state that space and time are just attributes of the way of organizing the subjective world of an observer. As I told, objectivistic conceptions of the nature of space and time can be divided in substantial and relational. According to substantial conceptions, space and time are substances independent from each other and from the consciousness of the subject. For example, the consciousness of man, of human being. Such position we can see in doctrines of Plato and Isaac Newton. According to relational conceptions, space and time is the relationship of places of object and the relation or sequence of events. These views we can see in conceptions of Aristotle or Leibniz. Subjectivistic conceptions. According to Aurelius Augustine, time exists only in the spiritual world of man. According to George Berkeley and Ernst Mach, space and time are forms of ordered series of sensations. And according to Immanuel Kant, space and time are a priori forms of sensory contemplation and do not exist independently of it. So, simply speaking, space and time don't exist externally of human mind. They are just a way of organization of sensual experience of man. That is, they are subjective. Thank you for your attention.